Good evening and welcome to the Xenia City Council meeting for August 28th, 2014. We've been in executive session since 6:30 talking about purchase of property, and we're now ready to convene our regular session just a few minutes late, and we apologize for the delay. We'll begin this evening with our invocation by Pastor Andy Spencer from First Church of Christ, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Vice President. If you would please rise and join me.
Let us pray. Dear Father, thank you so much for the wonderful blessings we have in life. Thank you so much for Xenia and all that it has to offer. God, I thank you so much for the schools that are started now. I pray your blessings on the teachers, the administrators, all those involved. God, I thank you again so much for our policemen, our firemen, and all those that work on this city, on the roads, and everything that they do to make this a wonderful place. God, I thank you for this council and everybody that's here working hard to make this a better place for us. I pray that you give them wisdom. And I also pray, Father, that you help each of us to strive for a more simple yet deeper life instead of so complex and shallow. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Spencer and Mr. Vice President. May I have roll call, please?
Vice President Long.
Here.
Councilman Cow.
Here.
Councilman Louderback.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilwoman Mills.
Here.
Mayor Bayless.
Here.
President Engel.
Here. May I have a motion, please, for approval of minutes from the August 14th, 2014 executive and special session, please?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Louderback. Second, please.
Second.
Second by the Vice President. Any discussion or question on this first set of minutes? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Cow.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Now motion, please, for the August 14th, 2014 regular session.
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Any discussion or question on this set of minutes, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Cow.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, we have an opportunity for audience comments. If anyone would care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, if you would please step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 4 to 5 minutes, please. Seeing none, moving to reports of committees. Councilman Long, please. Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on August 7th at 7 p.m. in these chambers. I was absent on vacation that week, but Ms. Amin did chair the meeting. They approved a certificate of appropriateness to allow a demolition of existing vacant single-family home to allow construction for a detached garage at 207 Whiteman Street. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of details on that, but that is what they approved. That's all their agenda.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Councilman Long and Planning and Zoning? Councilman Louderback, Miami Valley Regional Planning.
Thank you. Thank you. We met on August 7th. 2 items of interest. One, the federal funding update, a $10.8 billion bill to boost the Highway Trust Fund and extend the federal transportation law through May 2015, passed the House and Senate on July 31st. Also, there's 3 projects in this area. There's solicitation that will be decided for on September 4th. One is the Green 35 project. That would be $8 million. One is the I-70, I-75 Airport Logistics Access Project, 6.16. And the third one is Montgomery County US 35 improvements, $28.26 million. And while we're talking about the Green US 35, we'd talked in the past about a resolution, I think, with Greene County and Beaver Creek to support.
Yeah, I anticipate that at our next meeting, we will have a joint resolution. We've been communicating with the county administrator, the folks from not only Beaver Creek City, but Beaver Creek Township as well. So I anticipate that we should be in a position to have a joint resolution of support from all of those entities.
Okay, thank
hopefully
you.
at this next meeting.
Thank you.
Anything for Councilman Lauterbach and MVRPC, please? Seeing none, any items from my colleagues for items from City Council and Mayor? Seeing none, moving to reports of city offices. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President, Council. Just a couple of items tonight. Fairly long-winded one to get started, but I did want to start by laying out in some detail the situation we face overall related to road salt, then speak to the requested actions tonight, and then what moving forward would need to be done in terms of additional steps that staff would have to pursue. As detailed in your agenda reports, the city, along with other public sector entities, face a potentially challenging material shortage come wintertime this year. Through the Southwest Ohio Purchasers for Government Consortium, of which we are a party, we have received bids on our annual road salt purchase, and these bids are frankly a little bit concerning. Noting that last year we were bid salt at the price of about just a little over $54 a ton. We received a bid from North American that essentially would supply up to only 10% of each of the SWAP 4G bidders' total requested tonnage at an average price of approximately 150 ton. Our specific bid from North American for, again, just 300 tons was $113.75 a ton. From Cargill, a total of 8 communities of the 105 or 110 that bid, a total of 8 were awarded a bid from Cargill. Xenia was, of course, one of them. That bid price came back at $99.43 a ton. Other communities receiving Cargill bids included Beaver Creek City, Sugar Creek Township, Bellbrook, Kettering, Centerville, Mason, and Clear Creek Township. 3 other communities received bids from Central. Of the total tonnage requested by SWAP 4G partners, only 20% or so of the needed material was bid among the limited offers that we received. In a typical year, the city of Xenia uses about 1,500 tons of salt. Last year, to maintain normal expectations with streets with a very rough winter, I think we used about 2,200, 2,500 ton. Right now we have approximately 900 ton on hand in storage. Our salt barn can hold up to 100 additional ton. Our recent bid was for 3,000 tons. So that's what was a bid to us by Cargill. So if we purchase this total amount, we would need additional storage space for most of that material. We're currently working on a plan to free up storage space in our sanitation barn on Toller Road. We feel that when converted, and we can do that at no cost, that the facility could hold that additional 3,000 ton that we've ordered, but not any more beyond that. So the bid we received from Cargill stipulates that we must commit in earnest to purchase their bid by close of business on September 15th. That's actually pushed back. Originally it was about a week and a half ago, so they did push that commitment date back to September 5th. We must purchase the full 3,000 tons. We can't do a partial purchase. It has to be the full portion. Full payment must be received prior to October 1st. And further, we must take full delivery of the salt from Cargill, and the delivery must occur in one location, and that delivery period would be between October 1st and November 1st of this fall. My staff and I have been working very closely with other city managers around Greene County, the Greene County engineer, leadership from the other communities that were bid through Cargill, and even the SWAP 4G folks to discuss the situation, look at what options are available, and how we might partner together. I think in large part there's a desire to try to work cooperatively to make at least some material available to other communities that were not bid. I think the thought is, certainly here in Xenia, we know what it's like to need from other communities in a time of trouble. And so there's an opportunity here for us to pay back in kind to some extent. So this evening, staff is recommending council adopt an emergency ordinance to provide supplemental funding to allow for the purchase of the salt that's been provided through the bid by Cargill. This is the necessary first step for Xenia to be able to get any additional salt for the upcoming season. Council's approval would allow staff to take the following steps that we anticipate will be necessary to manage the overall situation. Again, we're in the process of scheduling a meeting, hopefully next Wednesday or Thursday, with the city managers of Beaver Creek, Bellbrook, Kettering, Centerville, and Sugar Creek Township to discuss what, if any, material as a group we'd be willing to make available to other jurisdictions, who those jurisdictions are, discuss logistically how that would be achieved, etc. And making material available, We want to make sure that our communities are utilizing some type of standardized approach in terms of an MOU with purchasing communities, and drafting of a draft is underway on that. We'll also need to determine a surcharge amount to cover the organizing city's costs. We're going to have handling fees. We're going to have staff time in managing that material, so we want to agree upon a price that seems appropriate. And I know this sounds kind of cartel-like, but we're just trying to create a structure that is fair and manageable and makes sense for us. We also need to come up with a logistics plan for receiving the material, storing the material, and then distributing. You know, if you've got communities from a very wide geographic area that may be interested in purchasing that material from us, so logistically, how does that work? And then further, we've had discussions just among Greene County entities, including a lot of the townships and Fairborn and others, about developing a recommended salt use policy so that all the jurisdictions in the county are following the same sort of approach and rationale. We feel like there's some strength in numbers and some protection for all of our communities if we're taking a similar approach. With this overall effort, obviously there's a lot of work and some staff commitment involved, but we think it's important, and we recommend being a good neighbor and being willing to help in this time of need. So this evening, what we're recommending is an emergency appropriations ordinance appropriating $258,485 into various lines in the 221 fund, and then an additional motion to authorize the award of bid to Cargill and move forward with the purchase from Cargill so that we can meet the timeline that they've established. So I know I threw a lot of information out there to you. I wanted to open up for any discussion or questions that you have at this point.
Thank you. May I first have a motion, please, as an emergency?
So moved as an emergency, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Discussion, please. Councilman Lauterbach.
I know I should know this. What percentage of beet juice do we use?
It will vary on the conditions. The true value of the beet juice, it will allow your salt to last longer and to work at lower temperatures. Beet juice, as a commodity, the price tends to be somewhat expensive. I couldn't tell you what that's running right now. We try to utilize that in conditions where we feel like we're going to get the precipitation, but it's going to be accompanied with real extreme temperatures so that you can get some of that thawing down at a lower temperature. And I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what concentration between salt and beet juice we would utilize, but the majority of your emphasis is on the salt.
But we're still going to be using that.
We'll still use the salt. We'll still utilize some of our salt for brine. Brining is a very effective technique. It gets you a long ways and gets you out in front. I will tell you that right now, we've already started looking at forecasts. Now, it's 90 degrees and 100% humidity out. We're talking about winter road salt, I understand, but we're already looking at some of the forecasts. Yeah. Two of the primary resources that we use have said expect a winter similar to last year, colder than normal, wetter than normal. I can tell you that with the salt on hand now, and even if we end up getting a little bit more from this arrangement, however it works out, we will probably have to cut back fairly drastically over what we normally do. So we'll be pushing more snow than melting it, and I think that's a condition you're not going to see just in our neck of the woods, but in a much broader geographic region. This salt shortage is a nationwide thing. In fact, I'll mention that SWAP 4G stipulates in the bid package that we put out that we want American product. And Cargill, as part of their bid, indicated that we would have to accept potentially Brazilian or Chilean salt. So they're bringing the material in from South America in order to meet some of the demand that's here locally.
Other questions? Councilman.
So we usually use 1,500 tons. We used 2,200 tons last year.
In that ballpark, yeah. I think it was a little more than that.
We got 900 on hand, so we're up 3,900.
Well, we have 3,900. If council approves this purchase, and again, it's an all or nothing. We have to buy the whole amount or none. We already
anticipate selling.
That's
2,000 of it.
That's, I think, a point of discussion that we definitely need to have. Now, again, in trying to, Mark Schlagic, the city manager of Bellbrook, and I are kind of trying to get this meeting of these city managers organized, and in that process, we were told today by Mr. Horn, the city manager from Centerville, that he has already committed his excess portion to Miamisburg and another neighboring community. So I'm not sure that they're willing to offer any more of their product to any broader geographic area than their immediate neighbors. Now, I don't know, my feelings are a little bit mixed. I mean, on the one hand, you have Swap 4G partners for Mount Gilead, if you know where that is, between Cleveland and Columbus, all the way down to a couple communities on the Ohio River. I don't think it's necessarily the City of Xenia's responsibility to provide material for those communities, but I think here in the Miami Valley area, Greene County, adjoining counties, I think we have an obligation to try to do something. If that means we keep a little less and make a little more available, I think it's a good thing to do. I think you're going to see region-wide significant reduction in the use of salt. And exactly what that magic number is, I don't know. What I would ask is that you give me the latitude to go back to that meeting next week, see what the group is thinking, and kind of build a consensus around what seems to be appropriate in terms of what we retain and what we make available.
Thank you. Any other questions, please? Councilwoman.
Is the salt shortage something that they expect to be in the following years also, or is this a season of shortage and it will improve?
Stay tuned to the weather this year. What has created this shortage is last year we had not only a much colder and wetter winter conditions here, but it was the entire Midwest, it was the Northeast, and you had locations that typically purchase no salt, like North and South Carolina, that were purchasing salt into February and March. So you had a lot more usage during the season. You had so much usage that many communities throughout the Midwest and Northeast, including right here in Xenia, we said, keep delivering it. We want to fill our barn back up so we have material on hand, and so that we're paying for it with last year's price rather than the New Year's price, because we knew it was going to go up. So you've got a combination of excessive usage, plus during the period where the salt companies are normally rebuilding their stocks, they were still delivering to communities into April and May. So they've had no ability to replenish their supply. So I think it's a possibility. The problem, I mean, the county engineer equates the usage of salt to drugs that were hooked on the salt. And it used to be really cheap, and now that everybody's using it more and they're hooked on it, the price continues to go up. I don't know that it's necessarily crack that we're using, but it is something that we need to think about. And we want to keep the folks safe. We want to keep the streets open for commerce. We want to keep conditions safe for public safety. But there's a price issue and availability issue that we're fighting against this year. So it's definitely a possibility that the condition is this or worse next year.
Councilman.
Do we have options
In terms of other treatments, or
besides the beet juice?
well, Councilman Kalp's favorite is sand.
Which
really,
we had to buy a new street sweeper
sweeper.
because of sand.
It
so-
really depends. We don't have a lot of other options. Of course, we always are we watch systems when they're coming in so that we're not over-treating or under-treating. The salt is best used as a defense against ice. With the snow, you can, once you get a pack on the snow, you can travel in the snow somewhat safely. I would anticipate you'll see more of that type of condition. And I've already talked to the superintendent to say, look, of schools to say, look, you're probably not going to have conditions in the city that are of favorable conditions, so you need to be thinking about that as you calculate your school season. So,
What's the price of sand per ton?
fairly cheap. In fact, I had it in my other notes because we've included part of what we've included for this appropriation is some dollars for some additional sand. Now, again, I think we probably only up our sand usage if we see a lot of ice events, because that gives you that grip for traction. In terms of usage for snow conditions, I really find no value in it, and I don't think we would do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, it is a real concern. I was meeting, the mayors in the region met with Congressman Turner this morning, and they really voiced this big concern over the amount and even questioned whether it's really a shortage or are they just upping the price.
When you look at the statistics, you've got cities like Toledo that had 250% of their normal snowfall. Chicago was the same. And then, as I said, you had cities to the south that normally never get any snow. Atlanta that had a major snow emergency last year, and so they were trucking salt to a city that has never purchased salt. So you have several ODOT districts here in Ohio that receive no bids. So it's not just SWAP 4G, it's the state of Ohio that's not getting material available to them. So, you know, I think there is a legitimate shortage. Of course, these companies would, you know, would do anything they can to, of course, escalate that price, but it does appear to be a legitimate issue. And I don't own stock in those companies.
And you can, it's a one-time purchase, I mean, you buy it.
Yes,
that's it.
it's all or nothing, one time, we have to commit, and I think the reason is, there are people lined up.
Yeah.
I've gotten several reports that private contractors who do snow are paying 5 and 6 times the amount that they paid last year, up to $300 a ton.
They were throwing out amounts today, and the Beaver Creek mayor and I just sat quietly, because they're paying more than we do, yeah.
I just had one or two questions. This is our largest purchase ever of salt, correct?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And you had mentioned that we're not going to be able to get it into our existing facility and that you're working to make another facility available. This is the building that's just adjacent to the garage, correct?
Correct. They're along the bike trail,
Right.
along Teller Road. There are
Okay.
2 facilities. You've got the senior center facility there for their bus storage. And then right next to it, we call it the sanitation barn.
Okay.
Typically used for a lot of equipment storage for like our leaf machines and things like that. We have looked and we are beginning to make accommodations available on the service center site proper in order to fill up the back half of that. We'll take some special precautions to make sure that drains are covered, some reinforcements on the wall to make sure that there won't be any environmental or structural concerns with the facility. But the city engineers looked at it, have brought in our wastewater treatment guy to look at it from an EPA perspective because we don't want any of that salt contamination.
That was what I was
So we're definitely, but we feel like we can fit that whole amount in there and that there's enough room logistically that for trucks would be coming in to take delivery from us that we will have room to operate.
Sure, and just, I hate to go down to the weeds. If I'm remembering, that's a rear loading building for that
Yes,
kind of thing?
and I
Okay.
raised that same concern.
Okay.
We talked about whether it was at all feasible to do.
Okay.
But it'll have to be from the
Okay.
backside.
And it is secure, I mean,
Yeah, we'll definitely be taking steps to make
Yeah.
sure the last thing we want is salt at this price to be disappeared.
People just randomly driving around in dump
Right.
trucks looking for salt?
I will tell you candidly, I mean, I had some real reservations bringing back a $300,000 item to you tonight. It's a lot of money. And I was concerned that we don't, at this point, have firm commitments from other communities that are saying,
Right.
absolutely, we'll play by your rules and we want the salt from you. But we know that anecdotally, we're starting to get calls. A lot of people want the material, they don't have it available. So I think it's more than a safe gamble to go ahead and make the purchase. If we, for whatever reason, don't end up selling this to other municipalities, I think we can easily make it available to private contractors and so forth, and again, to get rid of it and get out of it what we have in it. So I can't tell you there's absolutely no risk. You know, it starts raining in November and stays 60 all winter long. You know, maybe, but I think we probably, as soon as we get this material, it's going to start going back out the door, and we probably divest ourselves of the portion that we have in excess fairly quickly.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I mean, that was my comment, I mean, or my thought, if we don't get commitments from cities right away to take it right back off our hands, then we put it out on the open market.
Yeah, I really do anticipate that we're probably going to get flooded with calls. You've not seen a lot of broad media attention about this issue, but I think once you start having some of these types of discussions that occur, once word that gets out that city managers are, it'll start getting more attention. You'll be hearing more and more about it.
And the other thing, salt does not go bad.
Right.
So we might be ahead of the game for the next season.
Okay.
is the sand a part of this motion?
It is included in that total
Okay.
amount.
Okay.
And again, I want to be clear, that'll be primarily used in icing events.
Okay.
We will be working on a draft policy countywide. We're not obligated to go by that policy, but we think there's value in taking a collective approach. And so I'll communicate more of that back with you as some of these details develop.
I know, you brought up the schools, I mean, talking 30 years ago, but when I was in school, I mean, I can remember school buses drove through the Platts on packed snow roads. I mean, is there any Do the schools have a policy that they won't do that now, or?
Well, it's interesting because as part of our discussion leading up to our joint session, one of the issues that the superintendent and I had talked about was coordinating more on these types of weather events. So that he knows what we're doing, what we're able to treat within the city, and of course he has to think about townships as well. But you know, his biggest concern was the condition of streets in the Platts. You know, he cited that most of our main thoroughfares are generally, we do a pretty good job keeping them clear, but I told him we just can't afford, either from an overtime perspective or a salt perspective, to go out and treat every residential street. And if we did, we would be in the minority because most communities aren't doing that.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing we're looking at. I'm not sure what criteria he uses. I know that he told me he is up usually, if they expect an event overnight, he's up all night, he's monitoring that, because they have to make a decision by like 4 or 5 in the morning based on their union contracts. So I anticipate moving forward that we'll probably be communicating with him a lot more closely. Because our drivers are usually out, we can help provide information on conditions, let him know what our tactics are going to be in terms of treatment so they know how to adjust to things. And we really have not done that in the past, and I think it's valuable to, certainly to the school district to do that moving forward.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bailiff.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
I'll do the second motion.
Yeah, we actually will, contrary to how it was structured in the agenda report, Mark and I felt that really should be 2 items. There should be an award of the bid and authorization of the contract. So that first motion would allow for the emergency appropriation. The second motion, just so that we're following the procedure here.
May I have a motion, please, to authorize the city manager?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach.
Second.
Second by the mayor. Discussion or question? Roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bailiff.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
The only other item this evening is an action requesting council. I'm tracking my notes here. Is an action relating to our animal control program. Tonight's action is requesting that council move to allow a then and now with Greene County Animal Control in the amount of $5,820. If you recall, previously we had discussed, I think at the last meeting, and did an additional appropriation to cover some of the expenses from last year. In light of the fact that we have additional billing from this year that was not, we did not have existing appropriations for. This is kind of a housekeeping step to make sure that we can clear that out. The assistant city manager and I, in partnership with the Fairborn city manager, met with the county administrator and Doc Brown last week, talked through some of the issues and concerns that we have both with the pricing structure for their services as well as some of the services in general. I think we've come to an understanding with them. I don't anticipate that there'll be any change to the price that is provided to us relative to the county's role with the cat situation. But they are going to work to standardize those contracts among the different jurisdictions in the county so that there's some consistency. The intention at this point with tonight's action is to move forward with an additional discussion with the current contractor we have and to maintain that existing relationship. This is not really a policy discussion that we've had previously. So I did want to throw it out there that if there are concerns about our approach or if you're getting concerns from any of your constituents, I'm open to that discussion. But under what Jim had set up, I do feel like that's probably the most cost-effective approach for us is to continue to utilize that private contractor. But again, tonight's action would just allow for that then and now and allow us to come up to date with our status with the county animal control.
May I have a motion, please, as an emergency?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach, second by Councilwoman Mills. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Mr. Vice President.
The only complaint I received from the public about some of this is the current contractor we're using able to check for chips in the animals when they're picked up?
Yes, he has the ability to check the chips, and by contract, he is required to follow up, or if they have a collar, he's required to follow up, and he will usually work with the county to make sure that there's a reunification of the animal with you.
Okay, thank you.
Other discussion or question, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bailiff.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carries.
That's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Anything for the city manager this evening, please? Councilman Kaut.
Thank you very much. I briefly talked to the assistant city manager before the meeting. What's our time frame for bringing back the community funding to council?
In fact, I'm glad you brought it up. I was going to bring it up under the follow-up items. We had hoped to get some information back here within this first week or two from the last meeting. And let me update you on the whole situation. We have, I was told today, we have cut the checks to the first two groups. So they should have received them or will be receiving the checks. Based on what we could surmise from the motions and the actions taken at the last council meeting, there were really two follow-up steps. One was to do some additional research for the current applicants and make some recommendations on that. And then there was the additional follow-up step of looking at the overall guidelines and providing some recommendations on potential changes to the program. So I guess I would posit a question back to council. We are certainly prepared to come back with the existing applications at next week's meeting if you want to do that, noting that we will be reopening the overall program. Would you like some additional time beyond that to be able to bring back some overall program guideline recommendations? And I would just add that that would be my recommendation. There's no rush to change anything for next year. We do have a little bit of time to do that. So if you want to add some additional time for that portion of it, we can certainly bring that back later in the year.
Yeah,
Discussion?
I mean, I'd be okay with it coming back to the next meeting. I know the hip hop group, I'm told, basically is reapplying for another $1,500, correct? And then in my discussions with the law director, the other group that applied for funds, that it was recommended not to give them the money. Just to clarify the record, the police department had the wrong individual, wrong organization. So I think we should consider that organization for funding, since they, did have the wrong individual in mind when they said that we shouldn't give that funding to that group.
That's correct. Those concerns aren't there. Was that a citywide cheer?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And they had that group that group confused with another
And there was
organization.
one of the three that applied?
Correct.
Okay.
Other discussion, please. I personally am flip-flopped on this particular issue. I would much prefer city manager and staff to come back with some clear policy guidelines prior to bringing back nominations and recommendations for expenditures, as I would like to see a thorough review of a program which did not have a great deal of structure before we commit to the remainder of this year's dollars, and certainly as we move forward into next year. Councilman?
One thing I would like to add, do these organizations provide us with a financial statement?
The policy guidelines stipulate that the city may require that. We look back and I can't find, to be very candid with all of you, I can't find any record of any follow-up that really has ever been
I would want
precisely
the taxpayer, since we represent the taxpayers, I would want the taxpayers to know how these, and I've heard this in the past, that most of these organizations don't provide us with, we give them the money, and I'm not saying, I'm not mistrusting anybody, but to be candid with the taxpayer, I think they should provide us a financial statement where the money went. That shouldn't be a problem, should it?
I absolutely concur with you.
I do too.
Thank you.
Councilwoman?
I would like to see the money that is given to use as sponsorships for individuals that can't afford select type activities otherwise. So I would like to even make that money more streamlined, not just for equipment or anything like that, but for individuals that would like to join and have no way of funding that finances that we give goes, at least a portion of that definitely goes to help those who would like to have that.
Like a scholarship program?
Yes.
I would just add that that's some of the feedback that I think I really need to hear. It's what is council's desire in terms of the intent of the program. Do you want to see funding that is being geared toward community-wide events, toward operational costs for organization, toward specific projects or programs within organizations. That's some of the feedback that I think will be very helpful as we look at what types of guideline changes to pursue.
I like it to be open for anyone that could enjoy that. If it is taxpayers' money, then it should be open to all taxpayers to be able to enjoy such said events.
I agree, but I would suggest that to that same end, we need to have some structure
Yes.
as to what preference, if any, we have for groups that are, say, nonprofits, that are, say, doing things exclusively for a no-fee basis for the citizens of our community, those kinds of things. That's where I would like to see structure come back before I would want to vote on any additional expenditures. Councilman.
Thank you very much. I understand what the councilwoman's stating as far as scholarships go, but just a little background. You know, I am on the WeBucks board, and we used to offer scholarships, and we would give out numerous scholarships every year, and people would come and they'd say, well, I need a scholarship. And we would pay for them to play football or cheer. Well, we changed the terminology on that scholarship program 2 years ago to a hardship. And now if someone comes to us and they say, I want a scholarship, we say, well, it's a hardship, and you need to fill out this form and tell us why it's a hardship, and then we'll take it back to the board and vote on that hardship to see, you know, if the board's going to allow that hardship. And you would be amazed at the number of individuals that reached into their pocket and pulled out cash and paid for the registration right there on the spot because they refused to fill out a hardship letter. And we had 3 this year, 3. So I'm real leery when you start handing out scholarships. You know, I don't like that term. I like the term hardship a lot better. And I know within our own organization, we haven't lost any players, and the ones that truly need it, they fill out the hardship letter, and we typically approve all of them if there's, you know, the backing there. But the scholarships have gone away.
And I don't disagree with you on that. My point is if a child wants to play and they don't have the opportunity to play or be a participant in whatever activity it is, I want them to have the opportunity to do it.
Councilman.
One quick thing, I got to thinking what Councilwoman Mills said at our last meeting, as far as BRCA. I see no reason, you know, we don't have a recreation department in the city anymore. I don't see any reason why the city can't help fund some of these events. Personally, that's my personal opinion. Instead of you guys have to go out and beg. And this is for the community. And maybe, I don't know if it falls underneath community funding or if we could just set something aside and just have a budget for BRCA. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know if that's a possibility or not.
Those are some of the pieces of structure and guidelines that I'd like to have considered before we move forward.
The Play Xenia results are indicating that folks want those events. They want to see more of a lot of the things that BRAC is providing. So I think you could certainly make the case that there is a public value and therefore a reason to provide public funding to those types of activities. And
we're limited on what we can do because of the donations. We could have more activities, but we don't have the funding.
Exactly.
You know, we've asked everyone we know.
I will share with the council also that I had a meeting last week, I think it was last week, with the organizers of First Fridays, which has become a pretty substantial local community event series. And you know, they could really use some help too. And so I offered up the community funding program to say this would be an opportunity to see if you could get some direct funding from council. Because again, that's the kind of, I think, event that, you know, there's a community-wide impact, there's an economic value to it. So, you know, if we're justifying, you know, funds toward different events, that would certainly be one. And just as a heads up, that's something the council may see coming back from them. So.
Or the downtown Christmas.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, we have to beg and plead, and you know, for the children to have their crafts and such. So That would be great.
Mr. Vice President.
You know, on that note, I agree that the city should be able to at least basically fund that. So when we go out and ask for donations, it can go above and beyond to help cover those costs. On the actual community fund, though, is my opinion, just some direction that money should be provided to groups that are providing, either a group that has a hardship, like the hip hop team ran into this year with their funding cut short, or groups that are better in the public as a whole for events or something that benefits more than a handful of children.
Just, you might be able to answer this question. How's the finances of the community festival?
I'm not involved anymore. I know.
Oh, aren't you?
Yeah, I kind of stepped down. They were.
I'm sure they have a, I don't know how much of a budget, but they have a pretty good budget.
Yeah.
Just curiosity question.
My last year there, to be honest with that budget, it was about half, to put on the festival, about half came from the festival committee, and half actually came through the city, through the using payroll and blocking roads. And it's definitely a partnership with the city, but I don't think it's enough credit for it. It's quite a lot less than what it used to be.
We do get our fair share of criticism for it, however.
But the city does put up quite a bit of money for that event.
Mr. City Manager, do you need any one or couple of us, not that we would want to get to a sunshine law sort of issue, but to assist you with some of this, either development or review of policies, guidelines, that sort of thing?
Mr. President, I think that with the commentary tonight, what I'd like to do is go back and via email, maybe solicit with a couple more questions, just some other thoughts or ideas I have, and then if I can get some responses, either by phone, verbally, email response, I think we have enough that hopefully we'll be able to bring back.
So are we still planning on bringing those recommendations back to the next meeting?
So let's be clear, so then for next time, at minimum, we will have some recommendations for the remaining groups. And we will try our best, and I'll communicate back to the council president whether or not we feel like we'll be prepared to bring something back relative to the overall guidelines. Because I know a couple of you expressed you'd like to see perhaps some changes overall before awarding any more, but we'll see if we can facilitate that. If not, at minimum, we'll have some recommendations for those additional groups.
Well, me personally, I think we have two different issues here. We have funding that we've already set aside in our budget for this year, that we deal with that. And then moving forward from here on out, we put different stipulations or guidelines in place for 2015 going forward.
Councilman?
Yeah, but aren't we opening up the window?
Correct.
Yes.
So,
Correct.
under today's guidelines?
Correct.
Okay.
I believe that's what the city manager is saying.
Or do you want to?
If council was to award the maximum amount available to the groups who have applied, if you feel that those groups are worthy and that's something you want to do within this next meeting, that would be $7,500 of the total $10,000 that's available. So for any additional applications, you'd have $2,500 remaining. So just to put it in perspective, now to date, council has authorized $2,000. There's $1,000 to each of the groups. So there's that $8,000 remaining between the additional amount that council had indicated perhaps to the other two groups as well as the third group that applied initially.
And I personally would prefer to see an amalgamation of new proposals as well, so that we can look at, as we develop the policy, what it is, and we can allocate to groups who, for whatever reason, did not apply before and who may have a immediate and direct benefit to the citizens of the community.
But I don't believe that's what was established at the last council meeting. What was established at the last council meeting was that we would have the recommendations brought back to city council at our next meeting.
Correct, but we had also indicated there'd be some feedback, and I hadn't gotten any until tonight.
Okay, thank you. Councilman?
Let me understand this. We had 3 people apply.
3 groups, yes.
Are you saying that we're going to award them 3 groups 2,500 apiece?
Yeah,
and there's going to be 2,500 left?
Right. Let me be clear, because there was a lot of numbers thrown up. So there's $10,000 available total.
Right.
With council's actions at the last meeting, where we provided $1,000 to both Diamonds and Pearls as well as the high school cheer, there's $8,000 remaining. Of the 3 groups that initially applied, 1 did not receive any funding, and then the 2 each received $1,000. Right. So those other 2 groups would be eligible for up to $1,500 more under the current guidelines, and the third group would be eligible for up to $2,500. if council was to award all of those amounts to those groups, you'll have $2,500 remaining for any other group citywide that would apply under the extended deadline.
Yeah, I understand. I wouldn't be in favor of that, but that's, I guess that's down the road. Thank you.
Any other discussion, please? Seeing none, Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 items this evening, the first of which I'm asking for passage of an emergency resolution authorizing the certification of assessments to the county auditor for unpaid final utility bills and unpaid weed mowing invoices. The amount of the weed assessment would be $32,225, and the amount of the utility assessment would be $18,657.91.
Thank you. May I have a motion as an emergency, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Smith. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kalp. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Mr. Vice President.
Just one, I know that I'm not the only member of council that gets complaints sometimes that the city does not take care of properties that the owners are at fault and allow them to go. But this is $32,000 that we're assessing to people's bills because they're not maintaining their own properties, and the 18 for not paying their own bills. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. How's the mow to own program? Do we have any?
Any interest in it?
No, I mean, how's that going? Is it?
We have a gentleman that just completed one of the lots today, in fact, for this mowing machine. So we've had a few. We haven't had a lot.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kalp.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Second item I have this evening is the scheduled bills in the amount of $388,975.53.
May I have a motion to pay the bills, please?
So,
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach, seconded by Councilman Kalp. Any discussion or question on the bills or any specific bill, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kalp.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Anything for the Finance Director this evening, please? Seeing none, Mr. Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. One item this evening is the second reading of an ordinance accepting dedication of a .2446 acre public access easement on the West Park Square Shopping Center property. This was originally introduced by Councilman Lauterbach.
so moved.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Any discussion or question on this motion, please?
This is the road easement for the Kroger
Yes.
extension. Just to clarify, remember, that is not city funds paying for that road to be put in.
Correct.
I've read that a lot here lately. That's the developer, the owner of that shopping center put in that road.
Any other discussion or question, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kalp.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Anything for the Law Director this evening, please? Seeing none, any updates to our summary of action items, Mr. City Manager?
All items are up to date or scheduled. I can provide a brief update on the tax abatement opportunities or possibilities for the Family Entertainment Center. We did meet with David Beauregard last week, Mr. Brodsky and I, that is. Had an initial discussion about capitalization of the program, how to look at, what to look at in terms of local opportunities for any type of incentives, and he, of course, is well aware of state and federal incentives, and so we are looking at how we might build that program together with them. So work is continuing relative to that project, and we have had an initial discussion on any possible incentivization.
Thank you. Any additions or corrections, Mr. Vice President?
Question, it says presentation of timekeeping is awaiting further direction from council. What is that? What-
That is, I had met with Councilman Kalp on a discussion on the issue of, where we stood with the implementation of our timekeeping system. And I think that after that discussion, I think, I won't speak for him, that he was satisfied that the system that we have in place will do whatever council, I think, might desire it to do in the future. So that's why I'm saying if if there needs to be any further direction to us in terms of what you'd like to see implemented within that system, if you could get back to me, then we can discuss that in a work session if you'd like, or what have you.
Any question or concern?
Vice
President?
I mean, I can meet one-on-one with the council at one. I just would like to see how the system allows us to better account for hourly associates, hourly employees, my Walmart background associates, hourly employees' times are being accounted for.
We'll contact you and set up a
that'd be great.
meeting with Ryan.
Thank you. Any other discussion, please? Seeing none, reading of communications and discussion, Councilman Smith. Thank you. Councilwoman Mills.
Thank you. I wanted to keep it brief, but support your local business that builds a strong community. Support your local schools. Sports are happening. Kids are back in school. A lot of activities going on. And with supporting your local schools, I also want to bring out X Out Hunger. I'll be starting to talk about that again. We have 60% of the students on free or reduced lunch program in Xenia Community Schools. That is not just the city of Xenia, but that is the community school system. And if you donated last year, we want to say thank you. You made a difference, in 60 students for a full year received food every Friday. If you didn't help us last year, please help us this year. And those of you who did help last year, we need your help this year. The students are not going away. The enrollment in Xenia schools have gone up 100 students this year, and so the need is still there. So if you'd like more information, please visit our website. I know there's, excuse me, a brochure on there. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Kalb.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder that Xenia High School opens up their football schedule tomorrow night, playing Beaver Creek. I'll stay neutral in that game.
You stay neutral.
Yeah, I'm a Beaver Creek grad. So September 5th, next Friday, First Fridays. Don't forget about that. It happens before our next meeting. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lauterbach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to congratulate my friend Brandon Huddleston was named new county administrator. Also, the streets in Xenia, the new construction is looking absolutely great. It was done very quickly and very professionally. And I just want to remind people that's their tax dollars at work. There's something else, but I can't remember what it is.
It'll come to you.
Happy Labor Day.
Oh, no, it's not my wife's birthday. Yeah. Yeah, happy Labor Day. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'm very active on the campuses, of course, at Central State, my alma mater, and but also Wilberforce and Payne Seminary as well. And they're really growing and trying to be involved in Xenia City itself. And so when I have a chance, I do go on those campuses and promote the city of Xenia and talk about partnership opportunities. And then I was a facilitator at a freshman tea that Central State University had for all the incoming freshmen. The men go in one part and the ladies go in the other part, and really talk about what it takes to be a part of a community and our expectations as a city. So that went very, very, very well. And also, we have a very close relationship with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. They had a community update at Sinclair, which was very good. And then they had a welcome reception for the two new colonels, Colonel
DeVilliers,
and there was a Colonel Louderback, spelled with an A.
Oh, I believe that's my first cousin.
Yeah, because she does intelligence, and so I knew you had to be
Oh,
related.
intelligence, I know she must be related to you.
But it was very nice meeting them. And then the following day, the county commissioners had a reception at the county courthouse, and so that was very good as well. That same evening, I did participate in the joint school board meeting and city council meeting, which was held at the Xenia Board of Education. And it was a very good meeting, and a lot of things happened as a result. Some committees were developed and some things we can work on as the backpack program and those sorts of things. So really good discussion. And then on yesterday, I was with President Fitzhugh, Dr. Fitzhugh at Payne Seminary, and she wanted to talk to our own Mary Crockett. Someone had, a group of students from the seminary traveled to Columbus to hear a presentation by Mary about Xenia and the community, and they were just so elated and so excited about this presentation that they wanted to do more for involvement. And again, this is more community involvement. So Mary and I went out there yesterday and had some real good discussions, and so we'll let you know how that goes. And then, of course, this morning I participated in Congressman Turner's second Mayor's Roundtable. And it really is a great discussion that he has, and some things have happened. He's taken care of some issues that other communities have had. And so he's encouraged us whenever we do anything that involves the federal government to use his name. I have a card, a valuable card, so that when that does happen, we can contact his people, because he wants them to be in attendance, because he says sometimes just being there makes a difference. So I have that information. And I think that is it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. I just want to also thank the school board for hosting the meeting. Was it last week? Last week, and thank the superintendent and our city manager for arranging that, and we'll continue that dialogue. Although I know she's not watching, I do just want to congratulate and make note that Nicole Fisher, who trains at WH Karate here in Xenia, is right now competing in Peru on the U.S. karate team. She won that honor a few weeks ago, and I've seen her Facebook picture. She's down in Peru competing as a 16-year-old black belt on the U.S. team. So I hope she does well, and I'll report on her progress when she gets back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would echo my colleagues' comments about the joint meeting with the schools. I think it was an excellent forum, and I also would extend my sincere thanks to the school board for hosting us, and to our city manager and superintendent. I believe that was an excellent program of discussion that we had that is already yielding new areas of cooperation, and one that we should look forward to continuing for some time.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Beaver Creek, the Xenia superintendent said he's from Beaver Creek, but he's going back to Xenia.
Yes, he did.
We should hold him to that.
Well, we got a councilman going the opposite way.
And my last item is the other item to be looking for next Friday, besides opening of football, besides First Fridays. I believe XX production of Our Town is also opening their gala that night. So besides going out to First Fridays and enjoying a great time and hopefully super weather, please go and visit XACT, as I believe Our Town will be one of a number of flagship presentations and programs that they put on this year. Without any further ado, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Roll call, please.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaup. Aye. Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith. Aye. Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.